to Mobility Magic on a Monday on a 2-4 weekend. Thank you very much if you're joining us live today. Hello if you're new, if it's the first time. Hello if you're catching up on the replay. Apologies there, a couple of issues with my sound at the start. Hopefully you can hear me. Thumbs up if you can. We are going to get into it with some Mobility Magic, as I said, some lower back work, some upper back work, a little bit of rotational work too. Had a couple of people reach out and say they really wanted to get a bit of rotation in the mobility stuff as well. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it because we've got a lot to get through. If you have a foam roller, very useful today. If you have a chair, handy. If you even have a broom handle, that's great. You might need a doorway as well. I'm going to show you a few stretches for your back. Otherwise, let's get into it. For those of you that have done this before, you know the score. I'm going to turn off the comments. One sec while I do that. Otherwise, I get really distracted as we go through this. If you have any comments though, if you want to leave them on the replay video that I post up afterwards, that'd be fantastic. Any comments, feedback, anything you'd like us to cover, that's great and really useful for us to know. Helps us shape the sessions, especially for you. And if you're just watching along, feel free to take away anything that you discover today in the session. So we're going to start with a standing position. As I said, we're going to work on some low back, some mid back, some rotational stuff, a little bit of hip work as well. So the first thing I want you to do is, I have a door frame, but I'm not going to work with the door, but what I would suggest is a good alternative is either a chair, which I have, or you can use a broom handle as well. So I want you to imagine that I'm using a door frame. Now you can do this with the chair as well. As I said, we are just going to start with a little light low back stretch. So we're going to position our hips back. We're just leaning away. Now this works really well with a door frame because it's a little bit more solid and you can hold it a little bit higher up. Again, other option is a broom handle, and this is just going to let you reach away, and you can even do some rotational movement with it too. So that's your second or third option. Otherwise, I'm going to do it with the chair. So starting with our hips moving back and away from the chair, pushing down, making sure that our shoulders are straight. We're just leaning our hips back, breathing in. Deep breath out. As you breathe out, just make sure that you're sinking back a little bit. Okay? So we can move to the side. We can go a little bit more to our offside. So if I'm leaning more to my left, I'm going to be stretching more of my right. If I'm leaning the opposite way, I'm going to be stretching the opposite side. So I'm going to just turn so that I can show you a little bit more from another angle. We're going to position our feet shoulder width as I stand like this. We're going to lean away, shifting our hips a little bit. And you should get a little bit of a stretch down the side of your body. We're going to move on to the other side. And again, if you're using a door frame, you can actually lean from side to side to kind of open up as well. And you can also change levels. So, leaning away again, you can either position your feet shoulder width apart, or you can stagger them. We're just leaning our hips away and leaning from side to side just to help open up. Take some nice deep breaths in, sink and lean on the out breath. Okay, so second thing we're going to do, now that we've got through that, again, door frame or a broom handle are useful. We're going to do some rotational movement with the chair. So I like to use the foam roll at this point just to help me to cue my hips a little bit, just to stay nice and stationary. You can also use a broom handle with this one, I've done that before. But all we're going to do is shoulders back and down, so just a gentle set and roll of the shoulders. And we're just going to turn as far as we can go using our outside hand. This time I'm turning to my left, using my right arm to stabilize. I'm going to take a breath once I've hit the wall as to how far I can go. And breathe out. Take a nice deep breath in. Feel a stretch. Rotation. So I should gain a little bit more range. I'm going to take a nice deep breath in. Rotate a little bit more. You can see each time I'm getting a little bit more range as my chest and my rib cage kind of open up a little bit. And I can even turn my head slightly. Take a nice deep breath in. And as I rotate, I'm rotating my rib cage And this foam roller is just cueing me to keep my hips level and straight. Really, really useful just to squeeze as well. It's going to help balance your hips, just help them to stay nice and stationary so that we're not leaning from side to side, we're not overcompensating, okay? We're going to go one more time to my left. So let's just do that now. So again, hand on the outside, that's just going to help you stay, to stop coming back too far and also to compensate too much for the hips. We want to make sure that our hips are staying nice and square. We're going to turn as far as we can go to our left or your right if you're following along. Take a nice deep breath in, deep breath out. Reach backwards, keep those hips nice and square. Look at your thumb. And then just slowly come back to center. Try not to do too jerky a movement. Make sure that you're not jarring your back. We're going to go the opposite way now. So left hand is on the outside of the leg. And if you have any contraindications for movements that are rotation or twisting, then this might not be one that you want to do. But if you're all good and your back feels fine, then obviously partake in this one. So starting with the hand on the outside, we're going to just rotate slightly until we've hit a wall. We can't rotate anymore. Okay? We're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. Deep breath in. And that's just come back to center nice and slow. We're going to do that one more time. We're going to try and rotate a little bit further this time. So nice deep breath in. Breath out. Looking at that thumb behind you. Making sure those hips stay square. And rotate out. Awesome. So let's grab our foam roller. We're back up on our feet. Make sure I close the door. And we are transitioning to the floor. So for this one we're going to need our foam roller, and we're actually going to release the psoas like we did last time, a little bit focused on the diaphragmatic breathing. Really helped a lot of people with the hip issues they have. So we're going to start on the floor. Now, where I would like you to position this is if this is somewhere around my belly button or yours, I want to have it just above the hip bone, and want to have it off center to the belly button, just so that we are releasing that kind of hip complex and psoas and anything that's kind of around the diaphragm as well. So I'm laying on my foam roller. I'll start off on the near side so you can kind of see that, but we are going to lay across with our legs out behind us. And again, if you have any lower back issues that kind of flare up as you do this, I would probably just lay off the pressure. We want to support the movement with our elbows, and again, this is mainly a breathing focused exercise that should help to mobilize your body just to kind of loosen up the hip and diaphragm. So nice deep breath in. We're focusing our weight downwards, so we're breathing straight into where that foam roller is. And the more you can get it to your breath to kind of expand around the foam roller, the better it'll be. Now it also works with an exercise ball, like a small one, like a weighted ball, that also works. Anything which is going to catch that area. And you notice that every time I breathe out, I'm just sinking my weight into that foam roller. Sinking down. Sinking down. Nice deep breath in. Now, a couple of additions we can make to this. We can take it up a level in terms of stretch. First one is we can do a little bit more of a kind of lift, kind of sphinx pose or a cobra, making sure that my weight is still traveling down into the foam roller. I'm stretching away at the top end. I'm lifting up just a little bit. Or alternatively, the second way you can do it is to lift your foot behind you, stretching it the other way, or we can also combine the two, to a third stretch where we lift a leg, lift our body up, we're sinking our weight down. Excellent. I'm going to flip around. We're going to do it the other way this time. So if you've just done your left side, make sure that you move on to your right side and vice versa. I'm going to transfer my weight onto the other side. Again, we're trying to hit the area that's to the right of my belly button, kind of the hip, and we're just sinking our weight down. This should help loosen up that low back, because often if you have tension, there's built up from slouching too far forward. If you have a desk job, if you are slouching, or if you have poor posture, then we often get tight around the hips and the kind of psoas, iliacus area. So foam roller, resting across. We're going to do a couple of different variations for this exercise, the same way we did the last one. So again, weight is traveling downwards. As I breathe out, I'm just sinking. Feel free to move the foam roller if you need to. Deep breath in. Sinking down. Nice deep breath in. And down. Excellent. So again, we're going to apply those same two modifications which we just did. Just increase the stretch. So let's start with our kind of Cobra Sphinx position. We're just going to lift up slightly. Take a nice deep breath in. Feel the stretch. Breathe out. Let your weight sink down. Again, reapply the stretch. Breathe in. Breathe out. Slowly come down. Let's do the other side now. We're going to breathe in. Lift that leg up as we add a little bit of weight down. And relax. And do the same thing again one more time. And relax. And let's do a combination too. If you can do it, if you can't, don't worry. Just pick one and stick with it. And if you can't do either, just focus on letting your weight sink into that foam roller. Okay? Nice deep breath in. Deep breath again. And back down again. We're going to take the foam roller. We're going to do a rotational exercise now. So we're actually going to do a thoracic kind of thread the needle. Two ways you can do this. I'll slightly turn diagonally so you can see. We can just do it without the foam roller. That would be someone who's a little bit more advanced. But if you want to add a little bit more of a rotation, we will use the foam roller for a beginner. So we're starting in our all fours kind of quadruped position. You'll know this exercise if you've done a cat-cow before. So we're going to do that to start. We're just finding kind of our neutral position. So you want to get angry cat, happy cat, cut it in the middle, find your neutral, hands just below your shoulders, and we're going to bring one hand out, and we're going to place one hand on the foam roller, and we're going to come underneath. So I'm turning to my left, or sorry, my right, threading my left arm underneath. So as you do this, apply a little bit of downward pressure to the foam roller, if you have one. If you have one of the longer ones, just turn it slightly diagonally so it's away from your body, so that you have enough room to rotate. I have a slightly shorter one, so I'm going to continue with this. And as we breathe out, we're just rotating and we're just turning our body under. Deep breath in as you come back. Turning my thumb up to the ceiling. As I get a little bit more range, I'm going to creep my hand out. I'm going to try to turn my body underneath. And if you get any clunks or creaks, that's okay. We can sink back just a little bit, apply a little bit more stretch, and a rotate, and a peekaboo underneath your arm. And we can also change the angle. So as you rotate underneath, you can just change where your arm's pointing just to get a little bit more of a stretch across the mid-back into the upper back too. So we're going to turn the other way around now, do the other side so I can see you, can see me. If you get the idea, go ahead, keep going on the same side. Or if you want to switch now, feel free to. This is really going to depend on where you're most stuck. So this again is really good for the T-spine, upper back. If you're thinking about doing an upper body day, you want to start with something that's going to open up that T-spine and give you a bit more freedom of movement. We want a few degrees of rotation. We want to be able to twist and bend in our T-spine. So again, same setup. If you need to start from that beginning position again, make sure that you find your neutral. Make sure that you pack your chin as well. That's one thing I didn't mention before. And we'll bring one hand out as far away as comfortable, and then we're turning using the foam roller underneath. Okay. If you alternatively don't have a foam roller, I'll show you a modification in a second. We're just pushing our weight down to the foam roller and we're using it to help us pivot underneath us. Keeping that head neutral, turning our body if you can do it. Now, if you do not have a foam roller, fear not, I actually have a modification for you. So we're just going to move to the same position. I'm going to put our hand on the floor as far as we can go and put a bit of downward pressure. Once you're ready and you feel like your back starts to open up, take a few breaths, creep your hand forward a little bit and apply some downward pressure. So it's a little bit easier if you're someone who doesn't have the range of motion yet. You can do some isometrics into the floor just by putting a little bit downward pressure, taking a breath, breathing out, creep your hand up, and you can also change angles like we did before. So, I'm going to move on to a hip opener now. We've done a little bit of upper back, a little bit of rotation, a little bit of work there. I'm going to move on to a hip movement combined with an upper body stretch. So I'll turn to the side so you can see me. Let's bring our left leg forward. So this is my left leg, feel free to do your right leg if that's easier for you. We're going to start moving around the clock, but we're also going to do a rotation first. So placing our hand on our foot, we're going to reach upwards. We're going to hold that position. So take a few breaths in, and as you breathe out, apply more of a stretch vertically. And you're going to also apply a little bit of pressure just on the inside of the knee, just driving it outwards. Downward pressure into the foot to keep it flat, just biasing that hip and that knee outwards. And come back to center. So again, this one's really good to just bias that knee slightly externally. It's also going to help keep that foot nice and flat, and it's also going to support you as you kind of reach up and open up that spine. So we're going to start by rocking our hip forward. Our aim is to bring our knee, which is now at about 12 o'clock, around to about 9 o'clock, so we're going anti-clockwise, just to open up that hip just a little bit. And if you need to add anything underneath your knee, that's the one that's parked on the floor. Feel free to add a foam roller, a foam pad, something that's just going to protect it, because they often feel a little bit tender for some people. So we're just rocking around. I'll probably go a little bit slower on the first leg, so my left leg, and we'll go a little bit quicker on the right, just kind of see how we do for time. I'm just creeping around as I feel that hip open up. So our aim here is just to open up the hip, kind of separate the ball and socket just a little bit, just get those adductors to kind of ease up, loosen a little bit of tension before you work out, especially if you've done all the workouts today with all of the team. I believe it's Robert straight after myself with some dance. So we're just rocking around. I'm probably around about 8 and moving into almost 9 o'clock. So our aim is to get around to 9. If you find that you're getting stuck, let's say somewhere around 10 o'clock or slightly under, then just settle there for now and just keep shifting your weight forward. You want to keep a nice tall spine. So let's come around to about 9 o'clock, rock into the side, feel that hip kind of open up. And we're actually going to drop our knee down to the floor on the side, bring our hands into that quadrupedal position that we were in earlier, and we're just rocking back. So we're actually going to feel a little bit more tension run into those adductors on my left side here. You may even find some stretch in your hamstrings. Just going to turn around a little bit more so you can see. We're just rocking back onto that leg. And if you want to plant your foot on the floor, if you feel like you have the mobility to do that, feel free to. Otherwise, you can just leave your foot up for now. Okay, so what will happen here is you get a little bit of rotation in the socket. You should feel that leg, that hip kind of open up a little bit. And we're pulling that toe towards us. Now, as it starts to ease up, as you're rocking a little bit here, you start to lift your toe up, try and turn it towards the ceiling, and you should find that you get a little bit of a stretch more towards the knee as well. So we're moving down, moving that stretch away from the hip. We're turning that toe up to the ceiling, turn that toe up to the ceiling. We're just getting that rotation in as we turn up and back. Okay? So now, let's just sit a little bit deeper. a little bit deeper, and we're actually going to try to push that foot into the floor as we sink back, sinking our hip back. We're pushing down to the floor, so we're getting a little bit more of a stretch. Pushing down, turning up, pushing down, turning up, as we rock back onto our heel, and then come back to center. Let's do the other side. I'm going to a little bit of a deeper stretch with both sides combined right at the end. Maybe going a little bit quicker on this side. So, come into our, about 12 o'clock, as you said. We're going to work around to about 3 o'clock on this side. So we're just going to start a nice tall rock. So again, I'm nice and tall. Imagine the piece of string pulling your spine towards the ceiling, your head towards the ceiling. Nice stretched spine. And we're rocking forward, keeping that weight distributed mostly through the knee that's into the floor, and then just transferring as we rock forward into the other leg. We're just trying to get this hip to open up a little bit, these adductors to release a little bit, hamstrings as well. Really great if you've been sitting a lot during the day. And as you find it starts to loosen up with each breath, don't have to go too quickly with this one, that's when you want to move around. Now if you find that you get stuck in any position, feels a bit stuck, let's say, around 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever, just keep nice and tall, just take your time, and just let your body naturally open up as you sink back towards center in a way. So now I'm roughly getting to around about 3 o'clock, keeping that weight distributed as I come into the stretch this side. We can now transition to that nice kind of goalie adductor stretch that we had before. So, we're going to find a position which works. We're going to come into all fours. Make sure that your hands are down, creating kind of a 4 points of contact with this one. And I'm just going to start my rock back. If you can put your foot down on the floor, great. If you can't, just tilt your foot slightly so that you have a slight stretch but not a complete stretch. And also worth adding, if you need another, a little bit more height, you can also use a foam roller or a yoga block as well, and that works great. So, let's start our rocking. Just feel a little bit of a light stretch through the adductors working towards the foot. And we're just rocking. Just take your time on this one. A lot of people will tend to rush it, and you'll find that you actually over stretch or strain, and that's not what we're going for here. We're just looking for a gentle release of the adductors. Rocking, and rocking. So now let's just transition and let's start to turn the foot up as we rock back. Just turn that foot up towards the ceiling. And if you feel any click and pops like I just did, as my hip kind of opened up a little bit, that's kind of what we're going for. We're just trying to loosen up, mobilize those joints a little bit to make it easier for you to move on a daily basis. So, we're just turning that foot up to the ceiling. Now we're going to add some downward pressure. So, alright, but the next one is to apply a little bit of downward pressure, get this hip to kind of respond to that. You're basically doing an isometric into the floor, which is where you're kind of holding that end range. It's hopefully going to improve that end range for you. So we're rocking up as we're rocking back, rocking up as we're rocking back, rocking up as we're rocking back, and just pull your toe ever so slightly towards you as well. And now, coming back to center, we're coming into this all fours position. So we're shoulders back, cat cow, cut it in half, neutral position, and we're just going to widen our hip stance a little bit and just rock back. Just see how we feel. Now, this is a really good indication of how low you can squat. So another thing you can do here is just tuck your feet underneath and just see how that now feels as you get to a low position. If you need to do a check-in with your squat, great. But let's just transition to a little bit of a lateral stretch. So I'm going to creep my hand across to my left side. I'm going to sink my chest down, and I'm going to stretch my right hand side. So this side's the one that's on stretch. I'm reaching as far as I can. I can creep my hands forward if I want to, and I feel a nice deep stretch there. So from this position, take a nice deep breath in. Sink your butt back. lean into it to add that extra stretch, and let's creep our hand across to the other side. So now I'm reaching my right hand up to that top corner. I'm stretching across. I'm applying some downward pressure with that left hand. Excuse me a moment. Top right up, and then sinking my hips back. Nice deep breath in. I can add a rotation if I want to, just lifting my elbow up. Or if I'm fine, sink my chest down. Let that open up. Come back to start position. Repeat if necessary. Again, focusing on that lateral line so that stretch through the side of our body. And now we're just coming towards the end. So the last couple of stretches you want to do, we're going to transition to a low back stretch with a little bit of a twist, which we've done before a couple of times in previous sessions. So if you know this one, you can jump straight ahead. But we're just opening up that hip one more time by laying on our back, crossing our leg over, and then coming to this kind of all four, or figure four position, I should say, as we kind of rotate. So I'm going to turn to my left. I have my right leg across my left. I can add a little bit of an upward traction if I need to, but mostly what we're going for on this one is a rotation with a slight hip open. So I'm going to push my knee away slightly. And from this position, I'm going to use my elbows. If you remember from the last time we did this, if you haven't done it before, no problem. We're just going to have kind of a T position with our elbows, and I'm pushing in with my left elbow. That's the side that's closest to you. My right is across my left. And I'm pushing into the floor. And as I take a breath in and out, I'm adding in a twist. So only moving on the out breath. So nice deep breath in. Breathing out. Breathing out. Adding more and more rotation. And if I want to add a little bit more of a stretch and a hip open, I can push my knee away. I'm going to hold that position for a second. And I'm going to relax. I'm just going to rotate back to center. And I'm just going to bring that leg down to the floor. I'm going to bring that other leg across. So now I'm rotating away from you. So this is a figure four position. I have my leg across. This could also be a really great stretch for the performance as well, if you remember doing this one. But for today, we're just using it to help traction our hip as well. We can lift at the same time if we need to, but we are just going to turn, bring that foot down to the floor. I'm using my T position to apply a little bit of extra assistance. I'm driving my right elbow into the floor, and I'm rotating slightly towards you, the camera, and take a nice deep breath in. Rotate away by applying some pressure into this right hand side. Deep breath in. Filling that belly full of air. Rotate, pushing into the floor. And slowly, slowly, slowly come back to center. Just ease off and just let your body kind of see how it feels, see if there's any better with your low back. So the last thing you want to do is you just want to stabilize your hips slightly, because we've done a lot of twisting motion. We want to just center the pelvis again. Easiest way to do this is a little bit of isometric work. We're going to bring one leg up, driving this way, and we're going to push our other foot into the floor. So essentially my right leg is going to push down to the floor, my left leg is going to push towards me, and I'm going to apply some light pressure to meet that resistance. So I'm just creating some tension across the hips. I'm going to push up and push down with my other foot, and I'm meeting the resistance. And relax. We're going to do it one more time. Create a little bit of work for yourself. Might even feel it at the front of your hip right here, that's normal. And relax. We're going to change sides now. So I'm driving this closest leg into the floor, trying to get my pelvis up off the floor. That's the idea. We're creating that much tension. And I'm pushing my leg this way, so up towards my head, whilst meeting the pressure with my knee. So I'm going to push up, creating some tension tension, tension, relax. Let's do it one more time. Tension, tension, tension. Excellent. Bring it down. Second part to this, we are going to add in some tension this way to try and get our hips to open up a little bit. So there's two ways you can do this. You can add a foam roller in between your knees, or you can do what I'm going to do, and that's add in a couple of fists. So I'm just going to bring my knees up. I'm squeezing my fists as hard as I can. Feel a little clicker up like I just had. That's fine because that's just your PSIS just coming back into a more neutral position. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. We're going to rotate to our left a little bit. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze our fists as hard as we can. We're going to rotate to our right. Do the same thing. Might feel ridiculous. Might feel a little bit silly, but that's okay. So we're going for here is just to reset the pelvis. Bring your hips down. You're going to stand right up, or you can stand kneeling. Don't get up too quick. And let's just see how our hips feel. Let's do a little bit of a check-in. Feel low back. Just see how that feels. And hopefully that should help you feel a lot better. So for those of you that stuck around for the whole session, thank you very much. Mobility Magic on a Monday. We're back at the same time next week. We're back at our normal time next week. Thank you very much for signing in. Robert is coming up in the next half an hour with some dance, I believe. For those of you that stuck around for the session, thank you so much again. We'll post this on the live play for you to review. And if you have any comments, anything you'd like us to cover, please don't write it in the box below, but do write it on the video that we posted afterwards. So have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.